I know a lot of architects, a lot of teachers that would love this kind of style of drawing because it's very architectural. The text is very architectural, like the typography is very architectural.
To me, it makes no sense to his portfolio, but it just looks aesthetic. So I like
I
it.
try to understand, like, for everyone watching, that it's not for everyone, it's not for every office to see, but if you know at which office to apply, this can be very valuable, like his portfolio style.
Because unfinished things are not aesthetic. He's made it look aesthetic.
Your way of seeing color is very cool. I envy you.
Hey yo guys, welcome to Blessedarch and welcome back to Portfolio Review, the series where you send in your portfolios and I invite architects from all over the world and together we review and critique your folios, giving you our take on it. For episode 5, we have with us Steven Rubio, who is an architect from Bogota, Colombia. But most of you might know him as the founder of Show It Better. Show It Better is an educational platform dedicated to teaching everything there is to know about representation to architects all around the world. I've admired Steven's work for so long and wanted to do a portfolio review with him for quite some time now. And finally, we made it happen. So without further wait, let's get into the conversation with him. Hey Steven, welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad that you're here. It has been since we did our last interview. You've been on the channel again in August of this year when we did the quiz, but it has been a year since we did an interview together. So thank you for coming back and thank you for being on the channel.
No, thank you so much, Rashab, for the opportunity to be in your channel again. It's really fun. I really love these opportunities where we can talk, where we can review other portfolios. It seems like I'm looking into other people's lives and also like knowing what the architecture student is doing right now, which is always good if you're like getting older year by year. You get to know like what everyone is doing. So this is a really fun opportunity. Thank you.
All right. So before we get started with our portfolios and look at all three portfolios that we've selected for the day, I wanted to talk a little bit about your life and get some tips for portfolios. Before anything else, I was just going through your LinkedIn and I saw that you worked as a senior architect for Nike for like 8 months. Tell me a little bit more about that. How was that? How was the experience? And just tell me about the job.
Yeah, well, in the spectrum of my architecture career as an employee, that job was very weird because it was very different from all the jobs that I have gotten. And it was like I was normally working in architectural offices, urbanistic offices, working in competitions, but this one was, I was unemployed like second year after graduating, and I got the opportunity to present my my job offer to Nike Colombia. So that's like Nike Colombia, and they accepted me. And we were only two architects. And as soon as I entered, I was a senior architect. That was super weird because I felt like I knew nothing about architecture, but the job was mainly centered in kind of like creating the stores for Nike Colombia, for all the variations of what Nike is, like Nike sportswear, Nike sports. I don't know, I forgot the classifications now, but we were in charge of creating like the whole construction part of the Nike stores, but the actual design, the actual elements already came from Oregon Design. So we just had like a kind of like a PDF to choose from, like, hey, in this store you can pick this wall, you can pick this design for this column, etc. So we created different designs and then we install them. It was just more like superficial construction work. It wasn't that deep in. It was fun, but eventually I got tired because I wanted to do other things, more architectural related things, and I didn't have. I mean, it was very cool. This is very curious. It was very cool because we got a lot of Nike elements, right? So if you were an employee, you got like Nike shoes for, I don't know, like a fraction of the price. And if it was Christmas, you had the opportunity to go into the factory, no, not like the factory, like the warehouse of Nike Colombia,
choose anything
and choose anything. No, you have like a trash bag, like a very big trash bag, and you can choose a lot of things. So I was,
that's amazing.
I would
I mean,
choose.
there are perks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, there were a lot of perks. I mean, there were a lot of perks. I mean, it's a really good company. They always gave you a lot of stuff, but eventually, you know, you're like, right, what am I doing here? So
Yeah.
I left, but it was a very cool experience.
So like a couple of family friends here have a dealership for Adidas, and there were a lot of stores. And that is what they tell me. Like so they had to design a store for some other brand, and then that contacted me for that. But they're telling me like for Adidas, there's a whole manual that is there. Like even paint shades, you have 2 or 3 options to choose from, which almost look exactly the same. The 3 options, and you just have to choose that. Somebody will come from Adidas and just install things for you and go.
Yeah, it's exactly the same here. We have a series of, I mean, I learned a lot about graphic design because I didn't work as much with architects, but I worked with people who were, you know, marketing kind of specialists, or who created like banners, ads, like physical ads all over the country. So I learned a lot about graphic design there, about, you know, typography, about Futura, about Helvetica. Like, you know, you use this weight or separate like that, or do this kind of kerning. So it was a really cool experience in that sense. But apart from that, you know, that was it.
Okay, so when it comes to portfolios, you know, if you had to choose 3 things as an advice to give somebody, like top 3 things to keep in mind when you are making a portfolio, what would they be?
Every time I have to make a list, like a 3 thing list, it gets harder, because sometimes then I have 4 or 5. But I'm just gonna try to see what are the most important priorities, and then
Yeah.
stop at 3. But there may be more. So I had been thinking about this question before, because, you know, I've made portfolio reviews. I reviewed portfolio before. I've made my own portfolio a ton of times, and I've always seen like different versions. I always see like I could improve so much more, like in future years, or whatever. So I think the most important thing that I would want to hear if I was maybe a student, or if I would just starting to create my portfolio, is that there is no right way to create a portfolio. I was looking at your video the other day of the rap submission for the Yuck Ingles group, which I had seen, you know, like a ton of years before, and it went viral at that moment. Right now, if we saw that, if we were reviewing kind of that portfolio, we'd be like, you know, this is a great idea. Why didn't anyone think of this? And I'm not sure if he got the job, but he got a lot of.
He
Did
did.
he
He
get the
did.
job?
Yeah.
But he got a lot of attention, and I'm sure a lot of employers wanted to hire him like at that moment. So no one, like right now, we're not going to review video portfolios or rap, you know, portfolios or whatever. But that's a way of making an orchestra portfolio that no one had ever done before. And I'm not sure if anyone has done it since then, but it was like the right way for the right office, you know, and it had that big kind of a vibe. And so there's no right way to make a portfolio. It really depends on you. It depends on the office, and it depends on, you know, maybe the time in your life where you're at right now. So the first tip would be to understand that, you know, I have a cat and a dog, and they're like all over the place. All right. So the first step would be to understand that. I mean, when we see portfolios every day, it's very common to see like a kind of like an international style portfolio, where you're like, hey, you know, this guy could work at, or this girl could work at OMA, or they could work at any international office, and it would, you know, it would work fine. That is a nice portfolio to have, but I'm not sure if that is distinctive, if that is original, if that is unique. Sometimes you see very unique portfolios that you've never seen before, that don't have any unique style, but go with your character, go with the place that you want to apply to. So it's better to have a portfolio that expresses who you are, and not an international kind of portfolio, which is kind of like generic, you know? Yeah, I mean, I think that's the most important tip, to reflect your character in your portfolio. But it's also
For
super
sure.
important to understand what office you're applying to, and what projects you want to show in your portfolio. So for example, I mean, if you're a student, you may have done a variety of projects in different scales. You may have done urbanistic projects, architectural installations, architectural, housing, whatever. So your decision is like, hey, what, I just graduated. I want to apply for an architectural offices. Should I put them all? And the usual thing that you see is that every student puts all of their architectural projects in their, like all their university projects in their portfolio. And that may not be the best option. You may want to include projects that are specific to the office that you're applying to,
This is one thing I keep telling people when they ask me for advice on this as well. I'm like, listen, you don't need to put everything that you've done in your university. People like, because there's also this notion of, you can show growth from like your earlier years to your, and this used to be a thing when we were making our portfolios that, you can show growth through your projects in your portfolio as well. Now, whenever somebody asks me, I'm like, listen, there's no need to show growth. Nobody wants to see your first year things, second year things, because they're not as great. You can look back at them and know they're not as great. So, I mean, choose the things that you think are your best foot forward as well. And especially the project that you had a lot of fun in creating as well.
Yeah, and try to imagine yourself as the employer. I mean, the employer is just a person. I mean, if it's in a small architectural office, the owner of the company is going to review your portfolio, or sometimes if it's a big company, then just an HR person or a person that's the head of the department will review your portfolio. So try to put yourself in that in their position. They're like, all right, so they just want the best for their company. They just want to have the best talent for what they're looking for. So if they have maybe a job opening that says junior architect that can work in Revit, that can
they have like very specific requirements also when it opens up.
They spend time creating that profile. So try to think about like, hey, so that the person that created this profile spent some time in it. So how can I with my staying in my character, staying in what I like to do, what I love to do. I mean, I'm not going to convert myself into a different kind of architect and try to create a facade, but how can I fit into, or first of all, can I fit into their position? Would I want to fit? Do I want to work there? And if it is like a positive, if I do want to work there, how can I make their life easier when they have to open my portfolio and they have a minute to read it? Like, hey, I just want to like hit their precise points. I can handle Revit. I do have a graphic sense. I complete each point and make their life so much easier. So it's not about you. Like a portfolio seems something like very egocentric, something like I have to show myself, this is my opportunity. But stop trying to make it all about you and thinking about your employer. How can you make their life easier, and how can you show that you are what they need?
Yeah. So I want to dive right into our first portfolio. So the very first one, let's open Anuja's first. Yeah. All right. So, this is one thing that Viviano talked about as employers. There are two readings that you give to a portfolio. One is a quick 6 to 10 second reading that in which you're flipping through the portfolio and just taking
a quick scan.
Yeah. And then, so you keep it in a pile, like a yes, no, or maybe pile. And then you later go for a deeper dive into the portfolio. So if we do like a quick glance through this portfolio, so what are some of the thoughts that are coming through your head when we're looking through it?
Well, when I saw it, I really liked it. I really liked it. I really like in general, I really like the Anuja's portfolio. It has the graphic sense that I would wish I had when I created my portfolio. There are some details that, when you have a good portfolio, you always start looking for little mistakes. Like it really doesn't depend. Like when you have a kind of bad portfolio, you see the mistakes like showing like from the start. But when you have so many good things, you start being like very nitpicky on other things. Like, hey, why is this off center? Why did she choose this font or whatever? So all the comments that I have in this portfolio are very nitpicky because the portfolio is overall really good. I liked it.
Yeah. That is
so
true. I looked at these, especially the illustrations that she's made throughout the portfolio, and I wish I could make things like that. They're like so pretty.
I know. Yeah, I feel the same. It's a really good one.
So it was, I feel like a lot of times when I'm looking at portfolios, like it may be just me, I am much more drawn to portfolios that just visually look much better, and then I look at their designs later.
That's you said it right there. That's why we have to show it better. I mean, it's not only a visual thing. We don't have to be superficial. Like, hey, if you do great renders, if you do great diagrams, it matters. I mean, no, like the content matters as well. But the like kind of the first decisions are very visually based. So if you make a good first visual impression, then the rest will be complementary. But if the visual doesn't work from the start, then it's like a very bad first impression. You're like, all right, so they have to work very hard at having great designs, have a great variety
True.
in their portfolio, being very consistent. If the visual didn't work,
because it's a question
if they look at it.
Because it's a question that comes up as well. If you're not as great as creating those renders or creating those visuals, what do? The advice that I give to people is, at least work on those renders for some of your projects, because it becomes very, very visual when you're putting everything down in a portfolio, and it needs to sort of be aesthetic and convey what you want to convey. All right. So coming back to her cover page, let's start with that. So when you look at this cover page, what are your thoughts? Usually when I look for cover pages, and I think one of the best cover pages till date on all portfolio reviews that I've seen has been of Claudia, and this was Mariana's episode, which was just, it was the background was a cork board, that kind, and all she had written on the cover page was KLG in like a really good font. So like it was completely minimalistic, and I think for me, since then I've realized I just like, and one, I've realized for me, cover pages don't matter as much, because it becomes much more about the because I've seen great portfolios with I was like, what have you done on the cover page? But I feel like I love cover pages that are much more minimal. What are your thoughts when it comes to this?
I've seen all kinds of cover pages that deliver greatly. Cover pages that center maybe in a project, or cover pages that are very like kind of like magazine kind of designed cover pages which are also like, I love more the minimal, but sometimes someone comes out with a really good drawing and puts it on the cover page, and it's worth it. In this occasion, it's not the best cover page. I would prefer another font, or maybe it's too much attention in the actual drawing. This decision says that this is maybe the best drawing of your whole portfolio, and you have to look at it a lot. And the thing is, when we're going to go inside of Anuja's portfolio, she has a lot of good drawings, and I would argue that this is not her best drawing. She has so many more good drawings. So I wouldn't have selected this one per se. I mean, it's a nice drawing. It doesn't have it's not
it's not bad in any way.
But I've seen, right now, I'm like, after we can select I can say which one I would have put as a cover. And the second thing, that which is me being very nitpicky, I wouldn't choose that background texture. It just has a lot of texture on it, and the drawing is very clean. It's very lines and shades. And it doesn't have textures, so it's more like a graphic kind of thing. I would not put this. Maybe I would put that off-white. I think that off-white is good, but not the texture per se. All
right, so as we move forward, we come to her CV, and she's written a bit of introduction about herself. CV, I think I've come to realize, is a really, really important aspect of any portfolio. And I remember in my portfolio when I made, God, that was ages ago, and I look back at that portfolio, I was like, I need to redo this, because it was just filled with things. And I remember my CV was one of the most difficult CVs to read. I just kept it as graphic as possible. But I've come to realize here you just go straight up point, just put forward what you want to put forward, so that it's very easy to skim through for your employer.
Yeah, you see two types of CVs, like your type of CV, like the very graphic one, which has a lot of logos, a lot of icons everywhere, and you don't know where to start.
Yeah.
Or you have like a CV on the other extreme, of course, that is kind of like a non-architectural CV, like it's very like an accountant, a lot of text in it, and it's also hard to read. So I think this one, I liked it overall. It has a nice hierarchy of the each kind of like mini chapter, and the fonts, everything is good. What I don't like, what would confuse me maybe if I was an employer, is the level of how you define what your skill level is.
I know, right?
There are three types of skill levels, or you are beginner, intermediate, or advanced.
True.
But you're not like a mid beginner or a mid advanced. You're like
I know SketchUp 67%.
Yeah, what is that?
Yeah,
like I don't understand why the Microsoft Office bar is like not completed totally. It's just like 92%. Like
what if they come with new updates?
Yeah, I don't understand. That's totally unnecessary. Just mark like three different types of skill assessments, like or you're intermediate or you're advanced. But this is kind of confusing, like maybe not for Microsoft Office, but maybe for Rhino, the Rhino versus Revit. I don't know the difference, or the Photoshop one, the AutoCAD one. You're like almost there, but not. I don't feel myself like very confident to say 100%.
Yeah,
no worries. I mean, you can say that you know 100% AutoCAD.
Although when somebody puts 100% on any software in any portfolios, I'm like, dude, are you sure?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big. I mean,
I wouldn't put 100% on any softwares or anything that I use at all.
Real no, but you have to come on. You have to take into account the.
Listen, I would rather use your beginner, intermediate, advanced, and just put advanced, but not like I know everything about this software.
Yeah, but let's say, for example, that you are applying to an architectural office and you're putting the Premiere Pro aspect. I think in an architectural like scope for an architect, you are 100% Premiere. You know a lot about editing of edition.
I mean, if you put it into context, then
yeah, if you were applying to like a designer's office or a video editing office, then maybe you would have to go back to beginner. But like in the context that we're in for architects, I think you know a lot.
True.
And for those that are always asking, like, hey, I just graduated, I haven't worked at an office yet.
Yeah.
What should I put in my CV? Like, this is a great example that she emphasizes on her workshops, on exhibitions, on different participations, events, whatever. And she doesn't necessarily have a work experience. She just has like a small internship that she did at an office. So this is a great example of how you can do it. Maybe a small thing that is kind of off to me in terms of graphic design is why the text is justified to the center. I would justify it to the left.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I don't know, justified text is still something very hard to pull off, because sometimes it can create a lot of
spaces. It gets really weird. Yeah,
it gets weird to read, and it creates a lot of spaces inside of the whole block. But here it looks nice. It just doesn't look nice that it's centered. Or if it was centered, then maybe center the whole block of your picture and your paragraph text, etc. But here I would just justify it to the left or to the right.
All right. Coming to the index page, where we have some logos on the left, we have the written stuff on the right. She has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 5 projects, and then we have working drawings and professional work. What would you recommend? How many projects should one include in a portfolio?
I would leave 4 projects maximum. That is it. This is, for me, this is too many projects. And here, like, we're going to see, she has a ton of good projects and some that are not as good as the others. So there is an option to choose. I mean, there's where to choose from. She can easily erase 2 of these projects and only leave 4.
Yeah.
But I would recommend to leave it at a minimum. Maybe what I love the logos. I love the color palette, the off-white kind of style. What I don't understand as much is the 2-number like kind of classification. So she has a number for her projects, but also right below she has a number for the the page number. I think, it's kind of like redundant. You should maybe just leave the number for the projects or leave the other numbers. But I don't see the necessity to visually put another kind of number text below a number.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if my critiques are very graphic design related. But,
no, for sure. Because this is one of the major things that what people fail to understand is when it comes to portfolios, it is not just architectural design anymore. It is a lot to do with graphic design. And those compositions, how you put things, where you put things, all of that does matter, because at the end of the day, this is a graphic design presentation that you're presenting to somebody.
Exactly. And, it's normal that you don't know what to do in terms of graphic design because we weren't taught that. You're not expected to be a master in graphic design.
True.
But what you can do is, a lot of magazines are very well designed in its graphic design. So you can go to a library if you have a nice graphic design magazines in your own library. Then you just look at one of them and follow strictly all the rules that they follow. So in magazines, they have thought for years, they have a dedicated graphic designer where they think where they choose their font very specifically. They choose where they put their text, how many margins they leave. So leave the hard work for architecture, but you're not a graphic designer, so get one of these a very well designed magazine and follow all the rules. And that, like in its minimum sense, if you follow them, you're gonna have a good well designed portfolio.
Yeah, that's some great advice. I've never thought of this. Like, you can look to magazines for inspiration as well.
Yeah, we don't know anything about graphic design, so it's normal. You can go and look at it. If I grab one of these books over here, there are a ton of different kinds of designs. It really depends on which one you are going to. But if I grab like the Elements of Architecture by Koolhaas, it's a very Koolhaas kind of style portfolio they're going to have, where you have big text, Helvetica, very conceptual kind of style. But if you grab like a normal 2G magazine where you have very nice minimum architectural projects, you're going to have a nice portfolio as well. So don't stress out, grab a good magazine and follow all the rules.
All right, so coming into her first project, so one of the things that I really like about a portfolio is the fact that her whatever text she has about the project is mostly limited to when she introduces the project. And then from then on, the project is majorly just visuals.
Yeah.
Which makes it much easier to read as well when you're going through those portfolios.
Yeah, it's a nice structure to have. At the beginning, all of the dense text, if for the people who read it, can understand much more about the project. I saw that in the other portfolios, we have a different kind of structure where some people divide all this text into each page because they feel the need to have text in each page.
Yeah.
But this is a super valid option as well, to just put all the dense text at the beginning, very well organized and very well synthesized. And then the rest can be like the graphic explanation of the project.
True. But you just need to have strong visuals for that, like she does.
Yeah, you can't have it really depends also as well what graphics you have. You can't put all of your images, or you can't put a very bad image. It has to be a very well worked image. And for example, in this first one where you see the text to the side and you have this first perspective image, it's a very nice image. It goes very well with the cover image. Like, it's very coherent, and this style of creating perspectives is very common. But what is not very common is all like the attention to detail, maybe into the people, the architecture in itself. So it's very nice to see how consistent she is with all of these drawings, and how you can see her preoccupation for making these drawings in its detail very well. So yeah. I loved her drawings, like these set of drawings.
This reminds me of my hostel though. Like in my college, it used to just look like this
Really
version of
cool.
this.
It looks nice.
When we come to her second page, this is the image I think she'd chosen for the cover page as well. We come to this huge sectional view, and which is something so a lot of people go for is that they choose one visual or an image like on a whole page to just and this I think I'd come to appreciate it more when we had done the portfolio review with Mariana, where she talked about the fact that if you have a great image and if you have a great render, just put it on that big page and let that person just take in that render and put nothing else on that page, like giving that render its own place and giving it place to breathe.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, and this drawing has the model, the 3D model itself has so much detail that it's worth showing like the whole project. And of course, the project in itself has so much complexities that she has to make the section twice to show both aspects of the project. What I would maybe emphasize even much more on this one drawing spread is to have much more white space. I mean, I think the drawing is too close up in your eyes. And if I had the drawing a lot smaller, have more white space around, if I didn't have those birds, those flock of birds over there, the sky with so much texture, but just my eyes focused on the drawing, it would look so much better. So I would just recommend to make it smaller. Make everything smaller, and the grass, the sky without anything, like completely blank, and it would look a little bit nicer. But overall, the drawing is really good.
Going ahead in this portfolio, so usually on portfolio reviews, we don't get into the design aspect as much about what they've designed or how they've designed it. We just look at how they're explaining what they've designed, which I think on the third page of this, the first project, I love these smaller diagrams which can help us understand how she arrived at the massing. It's very quick, it's easy, and it has minimal text because I've seen, and coming from my own portfolio as well, I explained it in a lot of words of how I arrived at the massing that I arrived at. But I like that it's just visual. It's on one side of the page, and the other side we can see a plan of the whole thing.
Yeah, I love it as well. I mean, I think this may be the general comment of the whole portfolio, but I would make everything smaller because I would leave much more white space to appreciate so much more these diagrams, which are so nice. I mean, I would maybe make the whole urban plan, the site plan, exactly to the middle, so I can have much more space to breathe inside of the in the space. But the diagrams are so well explained, and the process diagrams are very well done, that I would just leave much more white space around so people can just focus only on the diagrams and not on.
So make the diagrams even smaller.
Yeah, the diagrams a little bit smaller, and the site plan just move it a little bit to the right, and maybe crop it out a little bit, just so it's perfectly centered, and you have much more white space around the diagrams.
Okay.
It's a very nitpicky kind of thing, but I am so sure that it would look so much better. I mean, I would do it right now if we were on a limit of time, but it would just make this spread so much better. Overall, the drawings in this project are very nice. I think maybe I would argue, since this project is so detailed, I would argue to
spread out.
Spread out and decide which drawings you may want to eliminate, like filter this, because all the drawings are very good, they're very detailed, but maybe some can be eliminated and some can be made bigger, or some can just maybe you can have much more white space. So I think the project is very well explained. I would try to see which drawings I can eliminate and how to make this a little bit much more minimalistic in a sort of way. But the drawings, the color palette, the intensity of the lines is very, very well done. I really like the text pop outs and the text intensity, everything. I think it's super cool.
Yeah.
But I would opt to revise what can I take out without compromising the information of the project.
The color palette is something I think a lot of people struggle with. I mean, here the difference is now because everything is monochromatic. It is in these shades of blue. So I think it becomes a little easier in that sense. And it comes out really well.
Yeah, if you're ever having trouble, deciding your color, go for a monochromatic analogous kind of look where you have one color or two similar colors, and that's it. That's what Anuja does right here. But after we're gonna see that Anuja knows
Also
a lot
brings
about
in more
color.
color, yeah.
So I mean, Anuja, your color, your way of seeing color is very cool. I envy you. But if you don't know a lot about color, because which is very hard to know about color, then just go for a monochromatic look. This looks very nice, very interesting. And if you can apply this style to like all of your portfolio drawings and just vary it a little bit, like for example, the first project will be this this navy blue kind of color, but then the second project will go into a blue greenish kind of color, then the third one will go down that monochromatic scale. Then it will look very good as well. So try to be organized in your color, and this is a very good option. I love this perspective drawing of the walking through the double height street. I mean, sometimes when you have this style of line drawing, it can be very easy to fall into the generic kind of aspect where you feel like you've seen this project a ton of times or this drawing a ton of times, but she makes sure to add details that are very regional, very inherent to the project, and I love that. I mean, I think if we had to grab one lesson from Anuja, is how she applies like the regional aspect to her projects, and how you can see it reflected, and how you can even see reflected her character and her intention to make every project be of a certain place. And this looks very nice. Like if you like pan on over to the isometric drawings, they look nice, but they look like something that we've seen before in many other drawings. I mean, they could be in many different projects around the world, but the perspective is very inherent to one specific place. So I love how these drawings are constructed in that sort of way.
All right. So coming to her second project, which we go from a housing project to more of a transit and a complex. Again, we have the same format that is followed, is where she has a small image, she has text on the other side, and then the next image. I don't know if this continues exactly like that, but it's a section again.
It's one of the best drawings for me. It's one of the best drawings of the whole portfolio. I mean, this would have.
Would you put this on the cover?
The cover, yeah, of course. I mean, this is so much better than the other one, and it's so much more distinctive. The other one, I mean, it's not. It's an interesting project, but it's easy to forget. And this one is really, and like the color that you chose, again, Anuja, your color is on point, but I would put this on the cover first, but I would have, of course, erased the birds. They're super not necessary, and all the strokes on the sky, you can have it with a little less opacity. But the rest is super cool, like very well executed. And it says a lot about her style,
True. And I think here in this very page, you learn so much about a project just on the go through this section. You understand the different levels that are to the project. You understand what she's even put in materials at certain places. So you understand it in one go, which makes it so much more easier to read the whole project now. Like, even if I don't stress over the next few pages that she's put over of the project, I still know what is going where because of this one drawing.
Exactly. That's the importance of understanding representation in architecture. And this is much more expressive, and it does a better job of expressing the project than the render at first. That's why the render is kind of meh, it's not very interesting in comparison to the section. So if that is the first impression of the project, I would preferably go with a line drawing that sort of talks about this kind of thing. So this section is on the top. I would hire you right now for the section.
As we move forward, we see her drawings get a bit more descriptive about what each elements are, about these smaller diagrams where she explained how the things are coming up. What are your thoughts here? Yeah.
Yeah, and again, like of every project, we're gonna have a ton of drawings, right? I mean, we're gonna have a ton of isometrics, a ton of facades, sections of every project, and it's not necessary to put everything in. We already saw that. We already understood the project with this section.
Yeah.
Here you can put some complementary drawings. I would not even need this second section. I mean, I
The
understand that it's the cross section.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that interesting. I think it was more interesting in the other one. What I would maybe emphasize on right now is how to put maybe construction details or another level of explaining the project that we haven't seen before that can also be expressed in a very concise manner. So this axonometric is very like it's super cool. The other kind of diagrams that are on the top are super cool as well. But maybe I would strive, just like we said in the previous project, I would strive to erase a little bit and leave more white space, because you have very good drawings. And for example, for this exploded axonometric, I would just have it a little bit smaller and make the person kind of like take in that drawing, like just as we took in the whole spread white section. Like, hey, look at this axonometric drawing. Let's look at this exploded axonometric. It has a lot of detail, but here you're just telling him like, hey, I have kind of like 5-6 drawings. I don't know which one you want to look at first. They're kind of like all in the same kind of level of hierarchy. So I would erase the cross section and leave much more important space or white space to read the other drawings. I love it. I mean, I think it's a drawing that you don't see very often. It's very well executed. It has a lot of detail into it. Yeah, and sometimes like if you study, Koolhaas and all of these offices from the 90s, where, or any office that was before the era of rendering, a lot of people took creating hand models as their kind of diagram phase, their material phase, like everything they were explained through physical models. This is kind of like the test that you have to go through, because you are many times going to have to go work at offices that don't like your conceptual drawings with a ton of color. They want very commercial kind of style drawings. This project feels a little bit off from the whole portfolio, but I understand that she has to put this.
Perfect. So we've come to the end of this portfolio. But before we go into our second portfolio, so what we do is at the end, I ask the guests if they have any, so like an overall advice. Obviously, we talked about the specific details throughout the portfolio, but like overall advice that you would give to Anuja for a portfolio.
Anuja, congratulations. You have a very good portfolio. I love it. I love your way of seeing colors, but I would maybe try to filter out some images, eliminate some things, and try to design your white space, right? So maybe make that your next task. Design your white space and eliminate things. That's it.
Perfect. Now, before we go into our next portfolio, there was just one. So I do ask these some questions in between. So one thing that I wanted to ask you is renders versus illustrations, like completely hyper realistic renders to something more collagish or artistic. Your personal opinion on it.
This is, I mean, whatever shows your best skill, is good. If you like, for example, in my case, I'm very good at creating renders, so I would not go into the whole illustration kind of side. I would show that I'm very good at making renders, and that is it. But sometimes it can be the opposite. So it really depends on where you're good at. Try to emphasize on your strengths. That's it. Emphasize on your strengths.
True. But a lot of times, people stress too much, that maybe I need to create those hyper-realistic renders and only that, because everybody does that. But I've seen portfolios and people doing amazing illustrations, collages that explain their projects beautifully. Like in a lot of her projects, even Anuja's projects, it was the drawings that were much better at explaining her project and making us understand and look at her project than her renders were.
Of course. I would also maybe add to that understand like where you're applying to. Like, for example, if I was applying to Fala Atelier, that office, Portuguese office, or maybe to Atelier Bow Wow, or the Japanese office. I mean, they're not going to be as impressed with your hyper-realistic renders as they're going to be impressed with your very good illustrations.
Yeah.
So it really depends on the office.
True. All right. So next portfolio we are opening up. The file is called SS 2021. And this is the portfolio of Tamzid. I hope I'm pronouncing that correct. Initial thoughts, glancing through the portfolio.
The cover, it's kind of hard to understand. I love it's very minimal, and it's a very minimal cover. I like the logo.
Yeah.
But it's hard to understand at first. I would understand it after glancing at your project. Like I've already seen
That
it.
is
Like,
true.
hey,
Yeah.
The cover makes sense, but also seeing your drawings, I would also choose another kind of style for the cover, or maybe I would eliminate the whole logo and I would just leave the gradient.
Yeah.
It would make it minimal as well.
Because also, when I saw this cover at first, and because it was spread out on my screen like that, and then I was scrolling through the cover, to me on first glance, it was like, it felt a little too childish, like what we used to do earlier. And then you go through the portfolio and then you understand the cover. Yeah, the cover makes sense. But yeah, especially what you've chosen to draw could be changed. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's hard to understand. But Tamzid, I think, is the person that would apply to a certain type of office of architecture. True. And a certain type of office of architecture would kind of appreciate his portfolio. So try to understand, like, for everyone watching, that it's not for everyone. It's not for every office to see. But if you know at which office to apply, this can be very valuable, like his portfolio style.
Yeah. Going through his portfolio, like a quick glance, again, it is very, very now, and this is one of the prime reasons I chose his portfolio, is we see different styles of portfolio come up, right? This is very, very different from what Anuja did in her portfolio. And yet it shines in its own way, the whole portfolio. The way he puts his drawings, the way he composes everything.
No, overall, it's a very risky portfolio. It's a very certain type of architect. I love it. I would hire Tamzid as well. He has a very nice portfolio. I love it. There are things that we're going to talk about right now, and that I don't like, that I think he can correct.
Yeah.
But the general decision of how he made this portfolio makes him stand out from a general set of portfolios.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, we discussed the cover page a little bit. Let's come to his CV. Is where he's written down everything for his CV. I would argue that it can be made a little easier in terms of reading through it.
Yeah, it's kind of very dense.
Yeah,
text-wise, and it's kind of hard to read. You can make it a lot easier with intensities, with the color you choose for your titles. But I kind of understand very well, his skills, his interests. It's very well organized. And for example, in this kind of design, the text design, I like that he's not justifying everything and he's leaving it a little bit of rag on the side. So I like it.
Also, I had a question though. Now, when you see his skills in design, so we see concept ideation, sketching, hand drafting, and model making. Do you think we should include these? Because I remember in one portfolio reviews, I don't remember who the guest was. Maybe it was Chantal. I don't remember. But they were like, these, if you have to fill up space and complete it composition wise, you understand it. But these are things that everybody, like all architecture students or architects do, like sketching.
But is it? When we're gonna see his model making,
yeah,
and I can't make those models, to be honest. I can't. To be honest, I would not put hand drafting or model making because I can't do it. But if you're exceptionally good at it, then of course, make it very visible. Like, hey, I specialize, just like I would specialize in renders, and I would kind of emphasize on that.
If you do specialize in it, it's a great idea to put them in, but not like in a general way.
Yeah, but if you're like a general architect that does models very generally, there's no need.
Yeah. Okay. So coming to the index page again, what, the exact same thing that I felt on the cover, I felt the same thing on the index page as well.
No, come on, Tamzid, you have such graphic design quality in other spreads that this one is lacking a ton in so many things. I would maybe leave the whole page as a gradient, or I would just leave it white, but it's very confusing and it's very hard to read. It's just like too minimalistic. Sometimes you're like, hey, less is more. But here, the organization of the things is not, of the elements, of the typographic elements, to me is not very well polished as other spreads are polished. So
Yeah.
I would try to maybe revise this content page, because I know that you can make it so much better.
True. All right. So let's come to his very first project, which is Between.
Super cool. I love the project. Maybe I didn't like the amount of text. I mean, maybe you need to have the text, but you can separate it into paragraphs so it can be easier to read visually. Even if no one's going to read it, it can make someone like try to feel like they can read it with, the start of each paragraph. So I would try to separate it into 3 paragraphs or 4 paragraphs, which are easier to read, because the text has too much attention. But I like the whole color palette of this project. I love it. So it's a color palette that you don't see very often, and this is where you have to risk it.
And
I love
it's the colors that actually make you appreciate his project and how he has laid it out.
Yeah. The bad thing is, like, for example, in page 5, it seems like such an interesting graphic, such an interesting display of information. And I want to zoom in. And as soon as I zoom in, I see that it's in a very bad quality.
Pixelated,
very pixelated. I'm like, oh my gosh, are you serious? I mean, someone like an employer would really want to zoom in and see very crisp lines.
True.
So
I think one of the reasons,
export again in a very good resolution.
Yeah, one of the reasons might be because again his file is called SS 2021 Portfolio Small.
Okay, this may be the low version. Maybe that's why. But
if just in case this is not the low version and that is how the image is, because a lot of times people, and I did it myself, is you have some legends and everything in your diagrams already made for your sheets, and then you just take the whole thing and then you put it in your portfolio. And when you reduce the size to make the site plan look small, the legend also becomes so small that it's not readable anymore.
Yeah, this can be that case. I mean, and it's hard because many offices, or many, when you apply to master's programs, they require like a 2 megabyte kind of size. And this is 9. I mean, this is 9 megabytes. Anuja's is 75 megabytes.
Yeah, Anuja's was the heaviest portfolio that we have on, like, in terms of file size.
Yeah, none of these would be able to apply. So you do have to find a way, like when you export in InDesign.
I don't think there should be like a file limit.
Oh, there shouldn't. But
like file size.
But they're trying to make their job easier, and they have to see 50 portfolios each day. True. And they can't, wait for 1 second 70 megabyte portfolio to download. So try to make it as compressed without losing quality, which there is a way in InDesign. Like if you just Google it. Perfect. So it's a good drawing. I mean, I love the color palette. This is the type of drawing that I would want to see. I mean, it's a very nice graphic sensibility, but when you have it pixelated, it just, it just tells me a lot about your attention to detail. So no.
And coming to the next page where we have a lot of elements together. Personally, I feel like there are too many elements. They're all nice. I love the 3.
Yeah, there are too many
illustrations, collage type illustrations at the bottom. I really love them. I want to know what they are, but I don't think I can read anything. I can read next to it.
The text is too small to read. I mean, I would have maybe chosen one spread to put these 3 kind of collages side by side.
In this case, I also tell people either remove the text. Like if it's unreadable, then make sure that nobody even zooms in to see that there's something. Just remove all of it.
Yeah, but it also seems that the graphics on the top, the humidity graphics, are very important to the project, and it says a lot about the project in itself, which is very interesting. So I would also leave that in a spread as well if it's that important. Maybe the paragraph on the right, on the bottom right, kind of design wise doesn't help. I would eliminate it and just leave it all in sort of graphics.
Yeah, so like this is one of the things, because when you're seeing this So obviously in some of them you're not able to read the legend, but then you're able to read it in where it's written Jan, Feb, March, right?
Yeah.
But then again, that text, I think even font is different. So because I understand that this was a diagram that maybe would have been used somewhere else, and maybe there was a different text, different font, different sizes that we use here. But now when we're looking at it as a portfolio spread, we are seeing different font sizes spread throughout. And obviously the only perfectly readable one is the one paragraph that you've written. But you can sort of bring it together in a way so that all of it just looks more composed.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the drawings are very good. Like everything is good. Like whatever you eliminate, no worries, because all of the other ones are really good. But it's just a question of what you're saying, eliminating and trying to decide what text we have to take out. So we only leave the legible text.
True. His next page, I really love. I love that he has shown physical models and experimentations with it. And we don't see as much of, because unfinished things are not aesthetic. He's made it look aesthetic.
Yeah, maybe I mean, since Tamzid has like a very high level of portfolios and he can improve it even much more, maybe I would retouch the photos just a little bit, just so they look a little bit more professional. You know, so in some of these you can see, you know, the paper texture, some places that aren't aesthetically pleasing. So I would maybe retouch the pictures in Photoshop. But overall, I mean, it's a very well skilled to show. I mean, I love it. I love much more though the drawings that are on the right side. This shows like a level of like a conceptual architect that sometimes we don't see because everyone wants to make renders and you know, these nice isometrics. So these drawings are kind of left behind, but knowing that he knows how to make these drawings, oh, I love it. Like for me, this shows a whole different set of skills. The text paragraph is redundant. I would not have it. That I think maybe it's structured badly. I mean, it's not structured to like to specifically the half of the whole spread, or it's not visually pleasing, or maybe I would add a title to explain what I'm about to explain.
Yeah.
But if you want to make your life easier, just eliminate it and make your drawings speak for themselves.
You know, there are certain architecture books when you go through them, and they are similar to the style that he has chosen, where, you know, you look at, and I even sometimes think that the way he's put his text, which just feels off, just somehow feels, and in those books also it's just off.
Yeah, you're right.
And then it sort of, after a while, it just starts looking cool in that book. It's like anarchy, even though everything is off.
Yeah, but okay, you're completely right. Maybe what I would do to complete this architecture magazine style is only choose one model photo and just make it like the whole spread, just make it super big, like the best one, make it super big, and leave these drawings for the rest. But you're right, like this kind of text is very from an architectural magazine from the 90s, where the design is kind of like, let's just leave the text to the side.
I mean, if you're going for that design, if it was accidental,
if you're going for that,
then obviously then make it a little better if it was accidental. But if you were going for that, we see that.
I think it was accidental, because when you go into page 8, you can see that those text blocks just distract so much, and they're like completely not necessary, and there's like they could be designed so much better. Like the width of for like the minimum that you could do is leave the width of each paragraph column at the same width, you know.
True.
You can see
also I think for some reason, I don't know if it's true, to me it looks like either the line spacing or something in the font changes from one paragraph to another.
The text is always changing. Like this one is very different from the, like when the project initiated and the black spread, it looks very, very different. So I would just maybe be consistent with the typography, because the drawings are really good. I mean,
again, you look at the drawing on this page, looks amazing.
The text is kind of like killing it. So try to maybe, you know, eliminate it or just make it less important.
But I love these aesthetics. I wish I
Yeah.
had these.
No, they're really good. I love the spreads that start from the on the page 9, where you see like these AutoCAD kind of images where it
Yeah.
seems very 90s, very Zaha Hadid. Oh my gosh, this is like very, very cool. I would love to, like, I would strive for this style. But the text, kind of,
Yeah.
uh,
The text is the only
why?
thing that is throwing you off page after page.
Yeah, why, Tamzid? I mean, just eliminate the text or just leave the circulation paragraph, because the drawings are really good. Like the level of a conceptual architect that one would want for an office,
Yeah.
you have it displayed in this portfolio.
When we come to page 11, I think it is again that 90s book. And I love that page just because of the color though.
Yeah, the only thing that I hate myself for looking at this kind of stuff, but the shadow is not supposed to be there from the man. I mean, it's not supposed to be towards the front, but it's supposed to be towards the
Yeah,
back, because
because the light is right there. Yeah.
yeah. But apart from that, it is a very nice spread. The text a little kind of kills it a little bit, but the whole aesthetic, the guy just standing there is perfect. I mean, perfect. Maybe at this moment, I start to question, like, how many images am I going to see of the same project? Is it like,
Yeah.
is like a whole portfolio of this project? I would try to go back and
Yeah, by this
eliminate
time it becomes a little too, and because the next page is also then this project, it becomes a
yeah,
little too many of the same.
too much. Just try to eliminate 2 spreads and try to decide, make a hard decision, like, hey, which drawings am I going to keep, which drawings are super necessary. But for me, it's too much drawings of the same project. You already showed your skill, you already showed the outside facade of your project. That is already like shown in many places. Some are redundant. What is not redundant and what I think is super necessary, and I would have included from the first image, is this page 12 spread where you see the models. I mean, for me,
Yeah.
this is like this the best of the whole of his whole portfolio are these models. I mean, this just displays a level of skills and of images that you're not going to see usually
Sure.
in portfolios. This is like very nice. So I would try to leave this images. For me, this is like a kind of cover image type of image, type of model. So if I selected one of these drawings, or maybe the one on the right, and put it as a cover. I'm sorry, my cat is here. And put it as a cover, I would have a very good cover. For me, that would be it. But these are very good images. I would not eliminate this at all.
All right, coming to the next project, which is In Frame 1.0.
I love it. I love this image. I mean, I would maybe try to Photoshop some colors to make the orange stand out just a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because when you zoom out, it's like a little bit too much colors. But knowing Tamzid and knowing his love for color variation and knowing like what he likes to do, like,
Yeah.
it makes sense. It seemed like a project that
this is the type of colors that I want to do, but I would be too afraid to.
Yeah, it's a big decision. It's a risk, but
Yeah.
I think I think it goes well with the aesthetic of this project and the whole steel structure. Oh my gosh, it just looks so good, and it could look much better.
I mean, coming to the next page where we sort of see a section, and then we have things around it.
I mean, come on, your text is killing you, but we've already said that. I think you can improve your text here as well. I love the drawing. I love the colors that you have decided for your drawings. I would maybe try to get some of Anuja's level of detail in her line drawings with the people, with all of the regional elements. I would maybe import that here, because they would just make this drawing, this architecture, a little bit less generic and in a much more understood in its context. So paying attention to the detail that the people that you're including, the activities of each floor, so they don't have to generally be like a generic bed or a generic Revit desk or whatever, but just include very distinctive elements that can only be seen in this kind of drawing, would make this drawing so much better.
Coming to the next page, where he has a lot of elements going on in this page.
There's too much. I would just eliminate, or either you're putting the sketches, which are super good, or the hand models, which are also super good, or the
But
urban analysis, which is good, but not all three.
yeah,
Just decide
not
on
all of it
which
together.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, decide on which one you're going to choose. For me, I would go with the hand drawings, which are really, really nice, and maybe include one physical model on like on a very, very big widespread
Yeah.
to the side, just as you did in the previous project. But this is just too much. It's hard to read. There are very interesting images. It has a very interesting kind of a 90s architect analysis style. I love it, but it's too much. I would also eliminate the text, as you may know.
Yeah. Text, I think constant throughout his portfolio will be like, listen, do something about the text.
Yeah, but overall, the drawings are really good.
I love these images also, and this orange used on those images. Uh,
So good. It's so
yeah,
good. It's so good. I would emphasize so much more on these. Like in Anuja, we saw that at the beginning she used one color to for her projects because it was easier to manage and she developed it well. And here we're seeing a little bit more of a risk. We're seeing 2 and 3 colors, but 2 key colors, and they work very good because they're kind of like complementary colors, like that blue and teal kind of
yeah.
vibe. So this is also a very good way of going with 2 colors only. It's perfect.
The next two spreads, I think are my favorite in terms of color.
You're seeing a 22
The
Tabor Plains?
yeah,
Tabor Plains? Yeah, it's such a great drawing. I mean,
I love when people can pull these color combinations off.
yeah, it's very hard. It's a shame again that it's in poor quality that I can't zoom in because I know that this is a very high level detailed drawing where I could zoom in and see a ton of details. But here it's in bad quality, so I would maybe revise that. But otherwise, the drawings are really, really nice, and he's including his sketches in each project, that which for people that are trying to find a style in their portfolio, this could be a nice style to go with. To if you're really good at sketching, at conceptualizing your project and making 2 or 3 sketches that explain the project, this could be a very nice method to show that you are an architect that thinks about the process, that shows the final renders, but also shows the how you thought about the project before.
Yeah. As a composition, I was just thinking this might just look even better if, like, on those 3 images, I understand they might be crucial to the project, but you could just put your sketches down, leave some white space above it, and just text on top.
Yeah, I would eliminate them as well.
Yeah, it'll make a nice composition overall in that spread.
All the lines seemed very mushed and they're very kind of hard to read. So
Yeah.
if you rasterize it, if you pass it through Photoshop, this doesn't happen, and you can see final lines if you have it in a good resolution. So that could be like a very a nice tip for him to include.
I mean, it can be done just so much better because you know the amount of skill this person has.
It's a risk doing these
That
kinds of perspectives with colors, and something that people like some architects wouldn't risk at all. So that in itself, you show like a certain skill. So it's cool.
All right. So we've come to the end of this portfolio. Your overall advice to Tamzid for the portfolio?
Tamzid, just for me, I really loved your portfolio. It's very good. It's very conceptual. I love the physical models. I think I think some specific architectural offices would want you because you have very good skill set in many things. Maybe I would just pay a little bit more attention to the text, just like you did in the and maybe in the cover page, the CV page, where you designed it a little bit better.
Yeah,
I would design it also very very much more in other places. But overall, I liked your portfolio. Just try to again filter out some drawings that are kind of redundant.
Okay, so we're coming to our third portfolio of the day, which is Sumit Kumar.
Sumit Kumar. All right, Sumit. Let's see your portfolio. It reminds me, like the first time I saw it, it reminds me of the books by Francis Ching. What are they called? The Principles of Order.
Form, space, order.
Form, space, order.
Yeah, I think I have it in my Yeah, somewhere.
I have the bootlegged version, and like the typography, everything is exactly the same. It reminded me of that, but maybe it's too much of that, I think. And I think the general portfolio is very dense. It's kind of hard to read sometimes. It has very good hand drawings in some places, or kind
Yeah.
of these small little diagrams, but it's a little bit hard to read in some places. So I would kind of revise it in that sense, you know. And the cover doesn't convince me at all. It's very hard to understand.
Yeah. Yeah. We were just going to come to the cover, the very first. To me, it makes no sense to his portfolio, but it just looks aesthetic. So I like it.
You like it?
Yeah.
You would leave it?
Yeah. I was like, what I would do in this, if I had to make a change, is either maybe crop it a little bit more or just make it a little bit smaller. So it just looks like an aesthetic image and not something I need to pay attention to, and just selected works. I'm not sure if I would put the same font, but yeah, just making it more like an icon than something to look at.
I would do the opposite. No, I would completely go like full bleed, so we understand like that it's a very abstract kind of drawing, and make it like a very dark cover.
Yeah.
Or erase it in its entirety, or leave it in a very low opacity. But it's hard to understand. Like for me, I mean, obviously it's a very well done, you know, drawing or paint. I mean, it's obviously very well done.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't. It just says that you're more of an artist, like a painter, than an architect. So
True.
I'm not really a big fan of it. And the typography, I'm not a fan of it as well.
So we come to his CV and we come to his contents page. What are the thoughts that are going in your head?
The photo is too big for me. I mean, I don't have a necessary like inclination of whether to include or not your photo. I mean,
Yeah.
Sometimes it looks good, sometimes it doesn't look as good, or sometimes you just have to adjust maybe the size or the type of photo. Here it looks very formal, like here in Colombia, when you presented or maybe I think over the world, when you presented your your CV to different offices. If you were like an accountant or something, you would go and take your photo and then paste it on top. This seems like that type of photo. It seems very formal. And for me, it's just too formal. And obviously it's too big as well. I would maybe make it a little bit smaller. But overall, it's very hard. It has a lot of text. If for example, the portfolio that you talked about, that you made, like your first version of portfolio where you had a lot of icons, a lot of things, this would be the other extreme, where it has also a lot of visual elements that are maybe not necessary, and you can reduce it and synthesize it just so it's easier to read. So for example, I wouldn't put the whole underlined kind of things before in each chapter.
Like, yeah.
It's kind of hard to read. What do you think?
As you said, there's some easy changes that you can make to make it more minimal, to give each thing a little more space to breathe.
It feels very formal. It feels like it feels super formal. I mean, it depends. Obviously, Sumit, you may be super formal guy, so maybe that offends you. I don't mean it in a bad way, but you can be a little bit more relaxed and maybe eliminate some things. We're not like in. I mean, the architectural offices that you're applying to, well, it really depends if it's really old ones, but the majority of us are not that formal, so you can eliminate some of that strictness in your design, in your graphic design.
True. Coming to the right side, which is the contents page, here we move from something very formal to something more playful, quite
to the other extreme, like very architectural. So I'm confused, Sumit. Like, I'm confused, but I love it. I mean, I love the little diagrams for each chapter. I think it's super cool. I know a lot of architects, a lot of teachers that would love this kind of style of drawing, because it's very architectural. The text is very architectural, like the typography is very architectural. I'm not a very big fan of it, but you execute it here very well. So yeah, I mean, I like it. I mean, it's a specific style and it's well done.
True.
What do you think?
Same, I think, and I can see where you were also saying, because I remember seeing such diagrams in that book.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
it looks very Francis Ching. So
yeah,
for
I used
the
to
for the
try to practice these diagrams in my early years in my sketchbooks.
and they look nice. I mean, I love it. They
Yeah,
look nice. Maybe they would look a little bit less Francis Ching and like more contemporary, not so 90s. If you didn't choose that font and maybe chose another type of font, which is more like a normal like
true.
Helvetica kind of font,
This is the font
because
that we use on when we are drafting as well, like hand
yeah,
drafting. Yeah,
it's like the stereotypical architectural font
yeah,
that you get taught at in school. But here, I think it would make a nice contrast to have these very nice hand drawn icons with contemporary, kind of font
yeah.
like Helvetica, like a very normal kind of font.
Coming to the next page, which is the spirit.
I like it. I like the whole white space around. That's
Yeah, I
something
was just
that I
about
would.
to say. Like, I like the fact that it's just we have a lot of white space on the left, and we have the spirit written, and then we have this full spread render here on the right side.
Yeah, it's very nice. It's maybe what the other portfolios kind of need, more white space.
Yeah.
Like in this first kind of images, I need it. I haven't tested out the QR code to see where it takes me.
Oh, I haven't either.
But it appears that it's necessary. So I'm going to test it out real quick to see if it takes me to.
Yeah, I got it. It's a YouTube video.
Okay, so it works. All right, that's cool.
Yeah, so I think it's a walkthrough of this project.
Yeah, it's something that you don't see, but if it's something that complements the project and you have a very good video, and of course put it. If it's very redundant, maybe it's not necessary. But overall, I like the spread.
All right, what do you think of the render here?
I like it. I mean, I would create some small adjustments like to the actual render, but I like the decision of creating a widespread render. It again, like as we commented before, it just emphasizes on the perspective on what the project is about and how it explains the project. Here I understand the project, the context, etc. I love it. I would maybe pay a little bit more attention to detail to the human figures that you've included, which are kind of weird in the sizes and in the colors. And also I would maybe try to adjust the colors so the actual building stands out a little bit more. But in general, I like it. What do you think?
I also like the decision of just doing a half and half, where so the right hand side is an actual image. Like this is, I think, from an actual street. And so the right hand side becomes then a collage where he's put his building onto what is actually there. And the left hand side is it becomes a little, I don't know if this is a project that can go on any site, but there are very few spaces in India, or I would say are not there, where you can have a street like that on one side and a mountain on the other side.
Yeah.
Because it will always be heavily densed.
Okay. No, but I understand it now. What I would do to emphasize this idea of half and half is just leave the sky on the render side, completely blank, completely white, so you can understand that it's a half and half image.
Yeah.
Or maybe the grass without grass, or something that tries to kind of take this out of context. But yeah, now I'm seeing it. It looks super cool.
Yeah. All right. So let's come to the next page.
Yeah, this seems like a physical copy of the Francis Ching book.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't get it out of my head. I mean, the drawings are really good. Like this style of drawing, oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. I'm not a big fan of that much text and that specific typography, but I understand like what school of thought you're coming from and why you would like it. But if you're gonna have all of this interesting diagrams and text kind of vibe, the other side seems kind of off. All these little frames that have so many different drawings, they seem kind of weird. So for me, it seems like too much. But I understand that you have I love that they have a very high quality sense of drawing. I would maybe eliminate these these gray rectangles that.
Yeah, exactly. Also, we come from a spread that gave us a nice white space to just take the project and take the icon in to something now that is filled. is now you
Super
have to sort
dense.
of go through the entire thing and take your own time to with all of it.
Maybe I would take out just the text, but the rest I would. I mean, I love the drawings. I think you should emphasize much more on your style of drawing.
Yeah,
There are a lot of things that I would not normally go for in this portfolio, but I can't. I mean, I if someone hears this and says like, "Hey, no, Steven doesn't like." I mean, Steven and Rashab don't like their portfolio like
so
this.
yeah,
Let's
like
just
not to
do
do
it.
it. Yeah,
So let's just do it how Steven likes it. I mean, no, that's not the solution, because it really depends on you and where
yeah,
you're applying to. So there are a lot of offices that would love this style of drawing and this style of density. This is just our point of view, where
true.
we've seen a lot of portfolios, but I would not go for this such dense style in text, in this font.
True. Like, the last portfolio that was Tamzid's portfolio, uh, I really loved it, but I don't think I would go when I am making something because
Exactly.
I know he played with color really well. I know what I can do with color and what I can't do with color. So even though I like that style of portfolio, it's not something that I would sort of go for when I am making my portfolio, because it won't play to my strengths.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of offices in the world and here in Colombia that would hire how would you hire Sumit right away, because it's a very classic architectural style.
True.
So nice.
So we come to the next project, which is the silhouette. The same format is followed. There's a white space. He's given us some text. There's another QR code. So I'm assuming he's created videos for his projects. And then there is another render to the side.
I like that in the description. I didn't pay attention to the previous one, but it says his role and what he worked on, which maybe we have discussed it previously, or maybe you have discussed it in previous portfolio
Episode.
reviews.
Yeah.
But it's important to understand, like, to denote what was your role in each project and what you
True.
worked on, because it can be confusing, or sometimes you work on a project with 4 people, 5 people, 10 people,
Yeah.
and they do a ton of things. So it's nice to see that he explains that.
Yeah. True. This becomes really important when either it's office projects or you're putting in group projects. Is explaining
Exactly.
what was your role would just help your employer so much better.
Yeah, the render, I would improve it just a little bit. I mean, now that you are kind of like deciding to initiate with renders in each project, I would try to make really, really good renders if you're
Yeah.
going to initiate with renders, and make impactful renders. I think the first one was really good.
Yeah.
This one can be a little bit better. And maybe you can do that by maybe selecting 2 colors, 2 key colors, and not 3 or 4. Trying desaturating a little bit of your human cutouts.
Mhm.
But yeah, it can be a little bit more impactful, and I would pay a little bit more attention to the render.
So the next 2 spreads where he starts explaining the project a little bit, it all feels like a little too so even though he has this format of using these playful sketches and this architectural font that he's used, it's still very formal and bookish, as you said at the start. It's too formal personally.
Yeah, I agree, but I'm afraid. I mean, I don't want Summit to feel bad, because it's a very good portfolio,
Yeah,
and it has a very unique style. So Summit, I mean, we are very, like, we
these
have
are
a
just
very good.
personal preferences. I mean,
Yeah, so
everybody
I
has
don't.
different ones. And that is
Yeah,
one thing
so
that I keep telling people, even through portfolio reviews, each guest has their own preferences and their own opinions that they bring
exactly.
about each design. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So take it with a grain of salt. Like, everything that we say,
true.
your employer might think, or where you're applying might think totally the opposite and might love this. So
Yeah,
for me, it's too formal. For me, it has too much text. I would maybe eliminate the rectangles that are behind each text. But I mean, I want to emphasize that I really love his hand drawings. I mean, they're
yeah.
really, really good.
They are what shine in his portfolio.
Yeah,
Wow.
and and something, it's a skill that us contemporary architects don't have today. Like, if I would want to put something like this in my portfolio in the very best way, but I can't create very good drawings. So I would emphasize so much more on this than on any other render or axonometric that you may see in a ton of portfolios if you're reviewing them. So this is a very, like, understand, Sumit, that you have a very good skill at drawing.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's too much for me. For me, it's very dense. I would strive to, I mean, the ground floor plan, I love it a lot. It's very well done. But I would try to make the other side, the other half, a little bit more minimalistic, less color. So the color that kind of like dominates the whole spread is the green.
Yeah.
But I want to like rescue that Sumit has very, like, since he's so formal in his thinking,
Yeah.
the text alignment, the organization of his text is very good. It's something that
But you know what's
that
bugging me?
Tamzid is lacking. What?
You look at the ground floor plan.
Yeah.
Look at where the plinth level is written, and it's merging right into the black of the wall. And then the courtyard, which is written over an element.
Yeah. Yeah, it's,
and then the park. I'm again nitpicking this because I can see everywhere else there's a very formal order that is placed where everything is separate from other thing. It's in boxes. And I would just say continue with that, but then just, shift where you've written the courtyard, just shift it a little bit so it's not overlapping. Right. The plinth level, just either make it a little smaller.
Yeah,
or like
in
hard. 2 lines. Yeah.
For those that have like OCD, it's
that is the only thing that is just bugging me a little bit.
Yeah.
In the whole thing.
But the general floor plan, I think, is nice.
Yeah. The whole thing, the illustration is really nice. Just that.
I love the spread, the page 12. I love the sections. I think it has a very nice style. Like these landscaping sections are very nice. It's something that we haven't seen in previous portfolios. The trees look very, very good. So to me, I like this. Maybe the section on the other side has a little bit too much text, and these frames that are on each text block they're not necessary.
True.
But it's an interesting section. I mean, you can read it easily. If you're just like a junior architect that is just working in normal plans every day, the skill wouldn't be as used as you would want it to. This would be like the kind of like a higher level kind of architect where he would try to decide that. So it kind of sucks, but this, like, the truth, you may not pay too much attention to. But when you see the difference between these human cutouts and the ones from Anuja, where they're very carefully picked and placed, you see the impact that they have on the general drawing. So I would try to pay much more attention to the cutouts for that office, for Foster and Partners, or like this would be a killer portfolio.
So we've come to the end of Sumit's portfolio. So your overall advice for Sumit?
Sumit, I think you have a great attention to detail in a lot of things, and I love your sketching. I would emphasize a lot on your sketching skills. Maybe I would try to perfect a little bit of the renders that you have right now, but your portfolio is very well organized. I would try to make it a little bit more cleaner in terms of text wise, and try to see again what we can eliminate from that. But overall, congratulations. You have a very good portfolio. I think Norman Foster would hire you on the spot.
Do try, like, at least apply. All right, so this is officially the longest I never recorded a portfolio. We had the last was 2 hours 30 minutes with Mariana, and this has almost gone on for 3 hours. But
really,
but just before we can end this, one last thing that everybody does. So one final advice that you would have, or some advices that you would have for people. I know we did that at the start as well, but like any final words.
I'm 30 years old right now. I work as like in my kind of company. For the moment, I'm not looking to create portfolios for applying to jobs. I created a ton of portfolios in the past, and some worked, some didn't. I kind of learned a lot of things. If I were to create a portfolio right now, it would be completely different. But I want people to understand that maybe you're not going to create portfolios all your life. Maybe these first portfolios that you're going to create as soon as you graduate are the most important ones, because these are going to define your career path. So if you create a very good portfolio, you may be accepted into the office of your dreams, and that may define your career path. If you create a very medium kind of quality portfolio, that also may define it in the other way. That may define that you are accepted into an office that you wouldn't like as much. So I would try to, in this first part of your career, architecture career, spend a little bit more time creating your portfolio, making it, sending it to other friends, sending it to other people, sending it, like, for example, to these kind of portfolio reviews where you can have different points of view on your style, on your graphic design, on your content, and that can give you a whole complete different perspective on what your style is, if you didn't know you had one, and now we're telling you that you do. So try to spend a little bit more time designing your portfolio, and it could actually define your career path if you create it a very good one. So spend more time in it, and take everything we said with a grain of salt, because we are just, another point of view, but we're not going to hire you or anything. But someone may hire you from this video. So you never know. I have seen a ton of very good portfolios as well in other portfolio reviews that I would totally recommend to any office, and I think any office would love to have that. It's just a matter of communication and people seeing it. So if this can be a platform for employers to find very good talent, then you have done your job, Rashad. I mean,
thank you so much.
Extended so much. I'm sorry, I talk too much.
No, I will have a lot of put stuff to
editing to do.
Yeah. But it'll be nice. I also put out stuff for a more detailed discussion video behind it, like maybe on Patreon, or now I'm like tinkering with channel memberships, so like putting it there. So the discussion still stays, but it becomes, for those who don't want to listen to it, it becomes a shorter video. For people who want to, it becomes a longer one.
But it was a long conversation, but it was cool. I liked it. I really like making portfolio reviews.
I don't know if it's just because I've woken up early in the morning, but this is the least tired I've been after doing a portfolio, because others I am exhausted by the end. I'm a little bit exhausted. Because it's later night for you.
But it was worth it. I mean, I have a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for coming on the channel, Steven.
No, thank you, Rashad, for the invitation. I'd love to review in portfolios in another opportunity, or maybe images in another opportunity. That would be nice as well.
For sure. And that was it, you guys. That was the portfolio review, episode 5 with Steven. Let me know your thoughts about it in the comments below. Also, you can find the rest of the review continued on the channel exclusive video. You can click the join button to get access to it, or you can find the link to it in the description below. Also below is the link to my Patreon. If you wish to help support the channel, you can do so via Patreon. And that was it. I will see you guys for another episode of Portfolio Review very soon. Don't forget to like this video, to share this video, and to subscribe to Blessedarch. Until next time, bye bye.